Let's talk about power, not the kind that screams for attention, but the kind that lingers quietly in the shadows, leaving a lasting impression. Have you ever wondered what happens when you stop showing up for a man? When you step back and let the silence speak for itself? It's a move so subtle, yet so potent it can completely shift the dynamics between you two. But here's the thing. Most women misunderstand the true art of stepping away. They think it's about playing games or being manipulative. It's not. This is about self-respect, confidence, and leveraging your inner power. The truth is, men are wired to respond to absence far more strongly than they do to presence. Sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? But when you disappear, you create an emotional void that forces him to confront feelings he didn't even know existed. And in this void, he feels things he may not admit even to himself. What are these feelings? How do they unfold, and most importantly, how can understanding them change the way you approach attraction forever? In this video, we'll unravel the layers of his psyche, guided by the transformative principles of Stoicism and what I like to call Dark Stoic Psychology. We'll walk you through 8 powerful emotions he experiences when you disappear. These insights aren't just fascinating, they're actionable. They will give you a deeper understanding of human nature, empowering you to approach relationships with wisdom, grace, and an undeniable allure. By the end of this journey, you'll see how mastering this concept isn't just about winning him over. It's about cultivating a stronger, more magnetic version of yourself. So buckle up, and let's dive into the first of these feelings, a reaction so primal it's impossible for him to ignore. 1. The power of your silence. Silence. It's a language all its own, isn't it? When you stop texting, stop reaching out, and stop being that ever-present figure in his life, something remarkable happens. At first, he might not notice. After all, men often take consistency for granted. But as the hours turn into days, and the days stretch into weeks, your absence becomes a weight, a presence that is felt even more deeply because of its void. What does your silence say to him? It whispers questions he can't answer. Why isn't she reaching out? Did I do something wrong? Has she moved on? His mind starts to race, filling in the blanks with scenarios that tug at his emotions. The very act of not hearing from you becomes louder than any words you could have spoken. Silence has a way of amplifying everything. Every conversation you've had, every moment you've shared, takes on a new significance. He replays them in his mind, searching for signs, clues, anything that might explain your sudden retreat. Was it something he said? Something he didn't say? The mystery consumes him, and here's where the real power of silence lies. It makes him feel. Men aren't often taught to sit with their emotions. Society tells them to move on, to stay in control, to not overthink. But your silence strips away that control. It forces him to face the discomfort of not knowing, the vulnerability of wondering, and the rawness of regret. And here's the kicker. This isn't about manipulating his emotions. It's about showing him, in the most powerful way possible, that your attention is not guaranteed. Think about it. When was the last time he genuinely paused to appreciate your presence? The moment you stop being available 24/7, you create a space where he can't help but miss you. This is not about playing hard to get, it's about understanding your own value. Silence becomes your armor, a reflection of your inner strength and emotional discipline. The principles of Stoicism are at play here. By stepping back, you're embodying one of its most profound teachings, the power of detachment. You're not pulling away to punish him. You're pulling away because you recognize the importance of protecting your peace. And in doing so, you show him something rare and magnetic, a woman who is completely in control of her own emotions. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. While he's consumed by the questions your silence creates, something deeper begins to stir. The void you've left behind doesn't just make him miss you, it makes him question himself. Why does your absence affect him so deeply? What does it say about his feelings? About his own insecurities? This kind of self-reflection is a powerful tool for transformation, not just for him, but for you too. Here's a challenge. The next time you feel the urge to break the silence, to reach out and explain yourself, resist. Lean into the discomfort, not to play games, but to stand firmly in your power. Trust that the silence you've created speaks louder than any text or call ever could. And watch as it shifts the dynamic, making him come to terms with what he truly feels. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever stepped back and noticed how it changed the way a man approached you? Or maybe you felt the power of someone else's silence in your own life. Share your experience in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Ready for more? This is just the beginning. The next emotion we're diving into will open up another layer of his psyche, one that's even more intriguing. Stay with me, because things are about to get even more fascinating. 2. Curiosity consumes him. Curiosity, it's a force that can't be ignored. When you disappear without warning, you don't just step out of his life, you step into his mind. And let me tell you, that's a place you want to be. Imagine him scrolling through his phone, noticing the lack of your name in his notifications. At first, he shrugs it off. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you're distracted. But as the hours pass, something begins to itch at him, a subtle but growing unease. Why haven't you reached out? Did something happen? Are you talking to someone else? And here's the beauty of it. The more he tries to suppress these questions, the more they consume him. Curiosity doesn't just knock gently on his door, it barges in, demanding answers. And when he doesn't have them, his mind becomes a battlefield of possibilities. Every scenario, no matter how improbable, starts to feel plausible. Maybe you've moved on. Maybe you've decided you deserve better. Maybe he wasn't as important to you as he thought. These questions don't just linger, they spiral, pulling him deeper into a vortex of overthinking. This is the power of uncertainty. When things are clear, people don't pause to reflect. But when there's a gap, when something doesn't add up, the mind works overtime to fill in the blanks. Your absence becomes the question he can't stop trying to answer. And the less you reveal, the more obsessed he becomes. Here's the kicker. He may not even realize it's happening. Men are trained to appear unbothered, to brush off emotions like they're nothing. But the truth? He's checking your social media, scrolling through your old posts, looking for any sign of what you're up to. He's analyzing every like, every story, every caption, as if they're clues in a mystery he's desperate to solve. And it doesn't stop there. If he can't find answers on his own, he might turn to mutual friends, casually dropping questions about you. Have you heard from her? Is she seeing anyone? His pride won't let him admit how much he's thinking about you, but his actions speak louder than words. Here's where Dark Stoic Psychology plays a crucial role. By stepping back, you're not just creating curiosity, you're embodying restraint, a hallmark of Stoicism. You're showing him that you're not reactive, that you don't need to explain yourself or seek his validation. This composure isn't just attractive, it's magnetic. Curiosity is a double-edged sword. The more he thinks about you, the more he realizes what he doesn't know. And with every passing day, your absence grows louder in his mind. You become the enigma he can't solve, the puzzle he can't put together. And here's the secret: that mystery is what makes you unforgettable. But there's a fine line here. If you step back and then rush to explain yourself, you destroy the very curiosity you've cultivated. The key is to stay disciplined, to trust in the process, and to let him wrestle with his questions. Remember, his overthinking is not your burden to carry, it's his opportunity to grow. So let me ask you, Have you ever noticed how curiosity changes the dynamic in a relationship? How stepping back makes someone see you in a completely new light? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear how curiosity has worked in your favor. And if you're finding value in this insight, take a moment to like this video and comment number 1 below to let me know. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next transformative emotion we're about to uncover. Trust me, things are only getting more fascinating from here. Stay with me. What's coming next will take his feelings to a whole new level. Let's keep going. 3. The sting of missing you. Missing someone, it's a feeling that sneaks up on you, isn't it? At first, he might not even notice the space you've left behind. But as the days stretch on, something begins to shift. The absence you've created transforms from a quiet emptiness into an undeniable ache. It's in those quiet moments, when he's lying awake at night, scrolling through his phone, or sitting in a cafe alone, that the realization hits him. He misses you. And not just a little, deeply. Your presence, once a constant, is now a void. He starts to notice the tiny things he once took for granted. The sound of your laugh, the way your eyes lit up when you talked about something you loved, even the way your name used to pop up on his screen. These moments, which once felt so ordinary, now feel extraordinary. And that's the irony of it all. He only realizes their value now that they're gone. As humans, we rarely appreciate what's in front of us until it's no longer there. It's a strange flaw in our wiring, but one that works to your advantage. When you were around, giving your attention freely, he may have seen you as just another part of his day. But your absence flips the script. Suddenly, those small interactions feel monumental. The mundane becomes magical in retrospect, and he's left wondering how he ever let you slip away. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. This feeling of missing you isn't just about you. It's about him. When he misses you, he's also grappling with his own insecurities, his fears of being left behind, his questions about his worth. Why didn't he appreciate you more? Was he not good enough? Is it too late to fix things? These thoughts spiral in his mind, making your absence feel even more significant. This is the essence of Dark Stoic Psychology. By stepping away, you've created an opportunity for him to not only miss you but to confront his own feelings and flaws. It's not about manipulation, it's about giving him the space to reflect, to see you not just as a person but as a presence that elevated his life. Here's a scenario. Imagine him sitting in his car, staring at a song on the radio that reminds him of you. It's not the song itself, it's the memory it triggers. Maybe it was playing in the background during a moment you shared, something he didn't think much of at the time. But now it's all he can think about. That's the sting of missing you. It turns the ordinary into the unforgettable. And as this feeling grows, it does something remarkable. It forces him to reevaluate. When he misses you, he's not just thinking about the moments you shared, he's questioning his role in losing you. Could he have done more? Was he too distracted? Too careless? These are the questions that keep him up at night, and they all lead back to one central thought. He let something special slip away. But let's be clear, missing you doesn't automatically mean he'll act on it. Some men will let the feeling simmer, too afraid or too proud to reach out. Others might try to fill the void with distractions, convincing themselves they don't need you. And then there are those who will take that ache of missing you as a call to action, a reason to fight for what they've lost. And that's the beauty of Stoicism. You're not trying to control his actions or predict his response. You've simply created a space where he can feel, reflect, and decide for himself. Whether he chooses to chase you or not, the power lies in the fact that you've shown him something real. Your absence is felt, deeply and undeniably. Think about it. Have you ever had someone walk out of your life and realized too late just how much they meant to you? That sting, that ache is universal. And now he's feeling it too. He's living in that space you've left behind, trying to figure out how to fill it. And here's the truth. He can't. Because what he's missing isn't just your presence, it's you. As he wrestles with this feeling, one thing becomes clear. You were never just another person in his life. You were the person who made the ordinary feel extraordinary. And now, as he sits with the sting of missing you, he's starting to see that. Clearly, painfully, unforgettably. 4. The shock of rejection. Rejection, it's a word that carries so much weight, especially for men who often mask their vulnerabilities behind a facade of confidence. When you disappear, something profound happens. It's not just your absence he feels, it's the sting of rejection, the realization that he is no longer in control of the connection he once thought was a given. At first, he might brush it off. Men are conditioned to believe they're the ones who hold the cards, that they decide when to stay or go. So when you step back, his initial reaction might be disbelief. He tells himself, she's probably just busy, or she'll come around. But as the days pass, a darker truth begins to settle in. You're not waiting for him, and you're not chasing him. The rejection becomes real, and it's a blow to his ego that he didn't see coming. This is where the shock hits hardest. You've taken away the certainty he once felt about your attention. That certainty, the belief that you'd always be there, texting back, showing up, caring, was something he didn't even realize he relied on. Now that it's gone, he's left with a sense of imbalance, as though the rug has been pulled out from under him. And here's the fascinating part. It's not just about you stepping back, it's about what that act represents. Your disappearance signals something he can't ignore, that you have boundaries, that you value yourself enough to walk away when the dynamic no longer serves you. This realization forces him to confront an uncomfortable truth. He may not have been giving as much to the connection as he thought. He may have taken your presence for granted, assuming it would always be there. Rejection is a powerful teacher. For him, it's not just about the loss of your attention, it's about the mirror you've held up to his own behavior. He begins to question himself in ways he never had to before. Was I not enough for her? Did I say or do something wrong? Could I have handled things differently? These questions don't just haunt him, they linger, reshaping his perception of the dynamic. And let's be honest, this isn't a feeling he'll readily admit to anyone, maybe not even to himself. Men are taught to view rejection as a sign of weakness, something to be shrugged off or ignored. But internally, it eats at him. It's not just about losing you, it's about the blow to his identity, his sense of being desirable, needed, or important. This is where Dark Stoic Psychology comes into play. By stepping back, you've unintentionally given him the opportunity to grapple with one of life's toughest lessons, the importance of self-awareness. In Stoicism, rejection is not seen as a failure, but as a chance to reflect, to grow, and to reevaluate one's actions and priorities. Whether he realizes it or not, your absence is teaching him more about himself than your presence ever could. Let's paint a picture. He's sitting with his friends, laughing at a joke, but then something reminds him of you, a shared memory, a piece of advice you once gave, or even just the sound of your name. Suddenly, the laughter fades, and he's hit with a pang of regret. He hides it well, of course, because vulnerability isn't something he's ready to share. But inside, the sting of rejection is alive and well, forcing him to confront emotions he's not used to feeling. The beauty of this shock is that it's transformative. For some men, it might lead to denial or defensiveness, an attempt to protect their bruised ego. But for others, it becomes a catalyst for change. It pushes them to reflect on what they truly want, not just in a relationship, but in themselves. It's in this space of discomfort that growth begins. And here's the truth you need to hold on to. His reaction to rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of his journey, his maturity, and his ability to navigate emotions he may not fully understand. Whether he chooses to learn from it or not, the fact remains that you've left an indelible mark on him. You've shown him what it means to value yourself, and that lesson will linger far longer than the sting of rejection ever could. As he sits with this feeling, grappling with the loss of your attention and the shock of being on the receiving end of rejection, one thing becomes clear. Your absence isn't just something he feels, it's something he remembers. It's a wake-up call that will echo in his mind, forcing him to see not just what he's lost, but what he needs to change to avoid feeling this way again. 5. Self-reflection and growth. Let's be real, men aren't exactly known for sitting down and reflecting on their emotions. They're taught to keep moving, to not dwell, to man up. But when you disappear, something extraordinary happens. You leave him no choice but to stop, to sit with his thoughts, and to face himself in ways he may never have before. This is where the true transformation begins. Your absence isn't just a loss, it's a mirror. Without you there, he's forced to confront questions he might have been avoiding. Why did she pull away? Was I not giving enough? Did I take her for granted? What does this say about me? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary ones. And while he may not have the answers right away, the process of seeking them is where growth begins. Think of it like this. Your presence once filled a certain emotional space in his life. Now that space is empty, and it feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is what triggers self-reflection. It's not just about you. It's about him, his actions, and the way he's shown up, or failed to, in the relationship. And as he reflects, he starts to see things differently. He starts to see you differently. Here's where Dark Stoic Psychology comes into play. By stepping back, you've embodied a powerful Stoic principle, the art of detachment. You've shown him that you're not afraid to walk away when something doesn't align with your worth. And this forces him to reckon with a profound realization. He wasn't as in control as he thought. Your detachment challenges him to reflect on his behavior and, in doing so, pushes him toward growth. Self-reflection isn't a comfortable process. For him, it might look like replaying your conversations in his head, wondering if he missed the signs that you were pulling away. It might mean confronting moments when he didn't prioritize you or when he let his ego get in the way. And as these realizations start to pile up, something shifts. He begins to see not just the loss of you, but the loss of a better version of himself, one he could have been if he'd only tried harder. This is the part where things get interesting. Self-reflection can lead to one of two paths. On one hand, he might double down on his defenses, blaming you or circumstances instead of taking accountability. But on the other hand, and this is where the magic happens, he might lean into the discomfort and use it as a catalyst for change. Imagine him sitting alone, thinking about the last time you were together. Maybe it was a casual moment, nothing dramatic, but now it feels significant. He remembers the way you looked at him, the words you said, the energy you brought. And he starts to wonder, was I really paying attention? Did I truly appreciate her for who she was? Or was I too caught up in myself to notice what I had? It's in these moments that growth happens. He begins to see his own patterns, his own blind spots. And whether he reaches out to you or not, your absence has sparked a transformation. He starts to think differently, act differently. He may even take steps to become the kind of person who wouldn't let someone like you slip away again. But here's the thing. This process isn't about him. It's about you. By stepping back, you've reclaimed your time, your energy, and your worth. You've shown him, without saying a word, that you value yourself enough to walk away from anything that doesn't align with who you are. And that kind of confidence, it's unforgettable. So, let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how stepping back from someone forced them to reevaluate not just their relationship with you, but their relationship with themselves? If this resonates with you, take a moment to like this video and comment number 1 below. Let's keep this conversation going because your stories inspire others to see the power of self-worth. And don't forget to subscribe if you're finding these insights valuable. We're only halfway through the journey, and the next emotion he feels when you disappear will open up an entirely new layer of his psyche. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Stay with me, because we're diving even deeper. 6. Relief or regret. When you disappear, there's always a chance he'll feel one of 2 very different emotions: relief or regret. Both are telling, and both reveal more about him than they do about you. Let's unpack what happens in each case and why, regardless of his reaction, you come out ahead. First, let's talk about relief. This is the harder pill to swallow, isn't it? The idea that your absence could be met with a sense of freedom rather than longing might sting at first. But if he feels relief, it's a clear sign that he wasn't truly invested in the connection. Maybe he had already emotionally checked out. Maybe he wasn't ready for the depth or commitment you brought into his life. Whatever the reason, his relief is not a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of his limitations. Think about it. If your presence was a source of tension for him, it was never about you. It was about his inability to meet you where you were. He might convince himself that he's better off, that the distance is what he needed. But deep down, there's a truth he can't escape. He wasn't capable of appreciating you. And in the end, you don't want someone who feels relief at the thought of losing you. That's not a loss, it's clarity. Now let's turn to regret, the emotion that carries a much heavier weight. Regret doesn't surface immediately. At first, he might feel a sense of denial, brushing off your absence as temporary or insignificant. But as time goes on, that denial gives way to an uncomfortable truth. He took you for granted, and that truth stings more than he ever imagined. Regret is a slow burn. It creeps in during quiet moments when his mind has space to wander. Maybe he's scrolling through old photos or stumbling across a place you both loved. Suddenly he's flooded with memories of your laughter, your warmth, your unwavering support. And in that flood, he feels the pang of realization. You weren't just someone in his life. You were someone who mattered deeply, someone he didn't truly see until it was too late. This is where regret becomes transformative. Unlike relief, which allows him to walk away without much thought, regret forces him to face himself. He starts to question his decisions, his priorities, his actions, or lack thereof. Why didn't he show up for you the way he should have? Why did he let his ego, his distractions, or his insecurities get in the way? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary ones. For some men, regret becomes a catalyst for action. It pushes them to reach out, to try to make things right. But here's the catch. Not all regret leads to meaningful change. It's one thing to feel sorry for losing someone, it's another to take responsibility for it. And that's the distinction you need to keep in mind. Regret alone is not enough to rebuild a connection. True growth requires accountability, effort, and a genuine desire to be better, not just to win you back, but to deserve you. But here's the empowering truth. Whether he feels relief or regret, the outcome is the same for you. By stepping away, you've reclaimed your power. You've shown that your worth isn't tied to how someone else perceives you. If he feels relief, you've dodged a bullet. If he feels regret, you've left a lasting impression that he won't soon forget. In both cases, you've reminded him, and yourself, that you are not someone to be taken lightly. You're not an option, a convenience, or a fallback. You are a woman who values herself enough to walk away when she's not met with the same energy she gives. And that, above all else, is what makes you unforgettable. Whether he feels relief or regret, the deeper lesson here is about you. It's about understanding that your value doesn't depend on his reaction. It's about embracing the principles of Stoicism, detaching from the need for validation, and focusing instead on your own peace of mind. In the end, his feelings are his to deal with. Yours are what matter most. As you reflect on this, know that your decision to step back wasn't just an act of detachment, it was an act of self-love. And that is the most powerful emotion of all. 7. The games begin. When you disappear, there's a moment when the man realizes he's no longer in control of the narrative. This loss of control can trigger a fascinating shift. He starts to play games. And make no mistake, these games aren't just about you. They're about his ego, his pride, and his need to regain a sense of power. So, what do these games look like, and more importantly, how do you respond? It starts small, almost subtle. A random text appears on your phone, something casual, maybe even cryptic. "Hey, hope you're doing well," or "just thought of you today." On the surface it seems harmless, but beneath it lies a deeper motive. He's testing the waters, trying to gauge your reaction. Are you still available? Are you still invested? Will you take the bait? If you don't respond right away, or at all, he might escalate. Suddenly he's posting on social media more often, sharing photos of himself out with friends, or even with other women. These posts aren't accidental. They're designed to catch your eye, to make you feel something: jealousy, curiosity, regret. He wants to stir the pot, to see if he can provoke a reaction from you. Here's where Dark Stoic Psychology comes into play. By stepping back, you've forced him into a space of uncertainty, and he's grasping at ways to regain control. The games are his attempt to flip the script, to make you feel the discomfort he's experiencing. But this is where your power lies. You don't play along. You don't react. Instead, you remain grounded, calm and composed, completely unbothered by his attempts to rattle you. Let me ask you this. Have you ever received a text or seen a post that felt just a little too intentional? Maybe it left you wondering if it was meant for you, if it was a way of getting your attention. That doubt, that overthinking, that's exactly what he's hoping for. But here's the truth. His games only have power if you let them. By refusing to engage, you send a powerful message. You're not someone who can be manipulated by tactics or swayed by his attempts to provoke you. Your emotional discipline becomes your greatest weapon, and it's incredibly attractive. It shows him that you're in control, not of him, but of yourself. And that kind of self-assuredness is something he can't ignore. But let's not sugarcoat this. His games can be frustrating. It's easy to feel tempted to call him out or to react emotionally. That's exactly why this is a test of your strength. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, and in this case, that means staying centered in your own peace. You can't control his actions, but you can control how you respond or don't respond. Imagine this. He sends another text, this time more direct. "I miss you," or "Why have you been so distant?" Now he's trying to pull at your emotions to see if he can draw you back in. And while it's tempting to respond, to explain, to give him the reaction he's fishing for, ask yourself, does this align with the calm, confident woman you're becoming? Or is it just another ploy to regain control? Here's the beauty of it. The less you engage, the more the games lose their power. Over time, he starts to see that you're not like the others. You're not swayed by his antics, and you're not going to dance to his tune. This realization forces him to confront a truth he might not want to face. He's the one chasing, not you. If this resonates with you, let's keep the conversation going. Take a moment to like this video and comment number 1 below to share your thoughts. And if you're finding value in these insights, don't forget to subscribe for more empowering content like this. There's still one more emotion we're about to uncover. And trust me, it's the most impactful of them all. Stay with me, you won't want to miss what's next. 8. He starts chasing you. There's a pivotal moment in every dynamic where the balance of power shifts. When you disappear, when you pull away without explanation, it lights a spark in him that he can't ignore. The absence of your presence isn't just felt, it becomes the catalyst that flips the script entirely. Suddenly, he's no longer the one being chased. He's the one doing the chasing. At first, he might resist the urge. His pride whispers in his ear, convincing him that he doesn't need to reach out, that you'll come back on your own. But as time passes, that confidence starts to waver. Your silence creates an undeniable tension, a void that he's desperate to fill. He begins to wonder. What is she doing? Has she moved on? Did I misjudge her feelings for me? And this is where the chase begins. His first move might be subtle, a casual text, something like, "Hey, how have you been?" It seems innocent on the surface, but don't be fooled. That text carries weight. It's his way of testing the waters, trying to gauge your reaction. If you respond too quickly or too enthusiastically, he might feel reassured and retreat again. But if you hold your ground, if you remain calm and composed, it forces him to push harder. The next step in his chase is often less direct but equally revealing. Suddenly, he's active on social media in ways you haven't seen before. He's posting more frequently, sharing stories that seem oddly personal, or even liking your old photos. He's trying to get your attention, to remind you of his presence without explicitly saying so. And if that doesn't work, he might escalate, reaching out with messages that are harder to ignore. "I miss you," or "I've been thinking about you a lot lately." This is where the principles of Dark Stoic Psychology play a crucial role. By pulling back, you've created an opportunity for him to realize your value on his own terms. You're not manipulating him, you're giving him space to reflect, to recognize what he's lost, and to act on it. The chase isn't just about getting you back, it's about him acknowledging that he has to work for your attention, that it's not something you'll give away freely. The fascinating part is that his actions during this phase reveal so much about his feelings. If he's genuinely invested, his efforts will go beyond superficial gestures. He'll want to have real conversations, to understand why you stepped away, and to show you that he values you in ways he may not have before. But if his efforts remain shallow, texts at odd hours, vague attempts to rekindle without substance, it's a sign that his chase is more about his ego than his heart. Here's the truth. When a man starts chasing you, it's because your absence has reminded him of your worth. It's not just about missing you. It's about realizing that you're not someone he can afford to lose. And the more he chases, the more he's forced to confront his own role in the dynamic. Why did I take her for granted? Why didn't I see what I had when I had it? These questions aren't easy for him to face, but they're necessary. Now, let's flip the focus back to you. The chase can be flattering, even exhilarating, but it's important to stay grounded. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about maintaining your boundaries and ensuring that his actions align with his words. The chase only matters if it leads to real change, if it's driven by genuine respect and understanding, not just a desire to win you back for the sake of his pride. Imagine this. He finally gathers the courage to call you, to tell you how much he's missed you, how he realizes now what he didn't see before. His voice is filled with sincerity, and for the first time he seems vulnerable. This is the moment where you hold the cards. You get to decide whether his words match his actions, whether his chase is a sign of growth, or just a fleeting reaction to your absence. The beauty of this entire process is that it's not just about him. It's about you stepping into your power, recognizing your value, and refusing to settle for anything less than what you deserve. His chase isn't the goal. It's the result of you knowing your worth and standing by it. So, as he continues to chase, remember this. The power isn't in his pursuit. It's in your choice to let him in, or to keep moving forward. Either way, the chase has served its purpose. It's reminded him of what he stands to lose, and it's reminded you of what you're worth. That's the ultimate victory. As we've journeyed through the 8 powerful emotions a man feels when you disappear, it becomes clear that stepping back isn't just about creating intrigue. It's about embracing your own worth. Each step of the way, you've shifted the dynamic, not by playing games, but by choosing yourself. And in that choice lies your true power. When you disappear, you're not just pulling away from him, you're stepping toward a stronger, more confident version of yourself. You're embodying the principles of Dark Stoic Psychology and Stoicism, showing him and yourself that you don't need constant validation to feel complete. Whether it's the curiosity that consumes him, the sting of missing you, or the weight of your silence, you've left an impression he can't shake. But this isn't just about him. It's about you. It's about recognizing that your time, your energy, and your love are precious, and not everyone deserves them. By stepping back, you've reclaimed those things for yourself, and that's a victory that resonates far beyond any one relationship. Now, let's talk about you. Have you ever noticed how disappearing can shift not just the way others see you, but the way you see yourself? Have you felt the power of stepping back, of letting silence speak for you? If these insights resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation alive, because your story might just inspire someone else to embrace their worth. And if you found this video empowering, take a moment to like, comment number 1 below, and subscribe so you don't miss future videos that dive deeper into the psychology of relationships, self-worth, and the art of emotional mastery. Remember, this journey isn't about games, it's about growth. It's about cultivating a sense of self-respect that radiates outwards, drawing the right people toward you and filtering out the rest. So, as you move forward, hold on to this truth. The power isn't in the words you say or the actions you take, it's in the way you value yourself. And when you do that, the world around you shifts in ways you never imagined. Thank you for joining me on this transformative journey. Here's to your growth, your strength, and the undeniable power of your silence. See you in the next video. Stay confident, stay empowered, and remember, you are always worth it.